Shalom from Beit and thank you for joining me in the study of Parashat Yitro. In Parashat Yitro, obviously one of the most famous events is Matan Torah, is the receiving of the Torah, and Har Sinai and Sinai Mountain and all the fireworks and everything. But today we're not going to discuss Matan Torah, the receiving of the Torah, but rather the beginning of the Parsha. In the beginning of the Parsha, we are being told again about Moshe's wife, Tziporah. And maybe it's about time to know a little bit more about Tziporah. Who was she? And what exactly was the dynamic between her and Moshe? So the Torah begins with Vayikach Yitro choten Moshe. So Yitro, who was Moshe's father-in-law, he took Tziporah, Eshet Moshe, Moshe's wife, Achar Shiluchea. The word Shiluchea is something that we're going to discuss today, but if we will just translate it without too many ramifications, we will just say, after she was sent away, which obviously brings the question of when exactly she was sent away, why would Moshe do something like that, why she should come only now. We have so many questions regarding one pasuk. And then the Torah continues, Ve'et shnei vanea, and he also, Yitro, Moshe's father-in-law, brought the two children, which it's interesting because, again, the verse says, Shnei baneha, her children, which we know that's Moshe's and Tziporah's children. Mostly in Tanakh it will say banav or bnehem, his children or their children, and here the focus seems to be on her children. Ve'et shnei banea, her two children, asher shem ha'echad Gershom. The name of the first one was Gershom, ki amar ger hayiti be'eretz nochriya, because Moshe says, I was almost like a foreigner, a stranger in a foreign land. V'shem ha'echad Eliezer, and the second one's name is Eliezer, ki Elohei avi be'ezri, because God saved me, my father's God saved me. Vayatzileini micheref paro, and he saved me from what? From Pharaoh's sword, which probably related to the incident that when Moshe killed the Egyptian, basically Pharaoh judged him to death and Moshe had to flee. So in these few verses, few psukim, we have a description about Moshe's father-in-law bringing Moshe's wife Tziporah and two of her children, and we have a reason for their names, which we already, by the way, know from Parashot that we read in Parashat Shmot. We know that Gershom was named because of Moshe felt that he is like a foreigner in a foreign country, and Eliezer has the same reason. So what exactly is the point of those verses? So the Mechilta, which is a Midrash Tanaim that was composed in Eretz Israel around the 2nd century, says the following: Eimatai shilcha, when exactly Moshe sent Tziporah away? So the Mechilta has a very interesting story. And it says the following: בשעה שאמר לו המקום, when Hashem told Moshe, לך והוצא את ישראל ממצרים, go ahead, go to Mitzrayim, go to Egypt, and bring the Jewish people out of there, save them. לקח את אשתו ואת בניו והרכיבם על החמור. So he took his wife and his children, והרכיבם על החמור, and he put them on the donkey to go to where? From Midian to Egypt. אמר לו המקום לאהרון, so Hashem says to Aaron, Moshe's brother, צא לקראת אחיך, go and meet your brother המדברה in the desert. יצא לקראתו, התחיל מגבפו ומנשקו. So Aaron met Moshe after many years that they didn't see each other, so they hugged each other, they kissed each other. אמר לו משה, אחי, היכן היית כל השנים הללו? Aaron was like wondering and says, Moshe, I didn't see you for almost 60 years probably. Because when Moshe had to flee Egypt, he was probably around 16. He came back when he was 80. So 60 plus years he was not around. Aharon, his brother, his older brother, didn't see him. So he says to him, where have you been? Amar lo b'Midyan. So Moshe says to Aaron, I was in Midian. Amar lo ma tiv'elu bnei adam she'imcha. So Aaron looked at the donkey and he saw Moshe's wife and he saw two children. He says, who are they? Amar lo ishti uvanayin. So Moshe says, I forgot to introduce them. This is my wife, Tziporah. Those are my children, Gershon and Eliezer. Leichan ata molichan. So Aaron says to Moshe, in the desert, says, where are you taking them? אמר לו למצרים, obviously I'm taking them to מצרים. אמר לו, so Aaron says to Moshe, על הראשונים אנו מצטערים. עכשיו אתה מביא לנו את האחרונים? So Aaron says to Moshe, what are you doing, brother? Why are you bringing your family to suffer in Egypt? Don't forget, Aaron does not know yet that Moshe was chosen to be the leader to take Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, out of Egypt. He thinks that Moshe is just like, maybe he has some longing to Egypt and to his family, so he's bringing his own family to Mitzrayim. Says Aaron, what are you doing? Don't do that. They're going to be enslaved. We are so sorry about what we have in front of us, that so many people are being enslaved. Now you want to bring your own family? מה פתאום? You shouldn't do that. מיד אמר לה, חזרי לבית אביך. So Moshe looked at Tziporah, his wife, and says, go back to your father's house. מיד נטלה את בניה, so immediately she took her children, וחזרה לה לבית אביה, and she went back to her father's house. לכך נאמר, and this is basically the story, the backstage story, אחר שילוחיה ואת שני בניה, which means that moment when Moshe met Aharon, that was the moment that Moshe sent Tziporah back to her house with her children. And now they became her children because she is the one to basically help them grow. She is the one to be with them. She's the one to carry for them and to care for them. So therefore, that's why it's called Shnei Banea, her children. And also, according to the Mechilta, now we have some kind of an understanding that when was exactly the time and the moment that Moshe sent Tziporah back home. Now, it's very interesting because this story is like very dry. There are no emotions whatsoever. The only emotions that we can see, it's between the brothers. Moshe and Aaron, they meet after 60 plus years, they hug each other, they kiss each other, but there is really no warm feelings between Aaron and Tziporah and the children, nothing. Like Aaron asks Moshe, who are they? Should send them back. And Moshe does it, and they do it, which is like very cold to some extent. And also, if this midrash trying to describe to us this story, it seems to be that there is something very interesting. According to our sages, all the plagues in Egypt took a year. So Moshe is in Egypt for a year without his family, then he takes them out. They go to splitting of the sea, and then they stand in front of Har Sinai. Moshe is still without a wife and family and his children, and they are about to receive the Torah, and then the father-in-law comes along. So it's almost like a year and a half that Moshe did not see his family. That also brings some kind of a question of, he didn't miss them, he didn't think that they should join him, he didn't want to call them to come before the Am Yisrael received the Torah. Like, in Moshe's eyes, that chapter was closed and that's it. You know, he used to have a wife, he used to have children. What's going on here? Ramban, Nachmanides, tried to suggest the following idea. ויתכן שיאמר כי לקחה יתרו להשיבה אליו אף על פי ששלחה ממנו, בעבור ששמע כל אשר עשה אלוקים למשה. כי מעתה ראוי ללכת אחרי המלך בכל אשר ילך, which means the Ramban says, perhaps, maybe now Yitro decided, you know what, it's the right time to bring Tziporah and the children back to Moshe. Even though Moshe sent them away, which might be even something like, almost like got divorced from her. We will see that in other commentators. But Yitro maybe even felt insulted that Moshe sent Tziporah back, or maybe he thought that really Moshe is doing a favor to his wife, meaning for Yitro's daughter, because Moshe didn't want to take them and to risk their lives and to make their lives miserable and to be enslaved in Egypt. So, but now, בעבור ששמע כל אשר עשה אלוקים למשה, but after Yitro heard all the miracles that God did through Moshe, he says, maybe now it's the best moment. It's the perfect moment to go and to attach themselves to Moshe, because he's a true leader, he was chosen by God. So in a way, the Ramban perhaps gives a little bit of a different angle on the story from the Mechilta that we mentioned before, which means really Moshe was sincere in terms of his care to his wife and to his children. When he heard his brother telling him, don't bring them to Egypt, why do you want to bring them to suffering and misery? So Moshe sent them because he cared. Now, I guess he got busy with all the plagues and everything and leading the people. So he didn't do anything regarding bringing them back. Or maybe he was waiting to get into the land of Israel, and then after he settled, he will bring the family in. Whatever the reason is, Yitro was not really upset with Moshe. And now when he heard that God did all these miracles through Moshe, through his son-in-law, he says, oh, this is a son-in-law that I'm very proud of, and I would like to bring his wife, which means my daughter, and her children. Rabbi Sforno suggested that perhaps we can look at that story in a totally different way. He says, Achar shiluchea, after she was sent, meaning Tziporah, he reads it in a very original way. He says, אחר ששלחה אליו לדעת איזה מקום מנוחתו, אחר שילוחיה, it's not Moshe, it's not was that Moshe sent her. אחר שילוחיה is ויקח יתרו, Yitro took Tziporah after he sent her to search for her husband, to see where he encamped, which is very interesting, which means there was somewhat of a disconnection between Tziporah and Moshe. Yitro, I guess, heard that Moshe is somewhere in the desert, and he sends Tziporah to try to find Moshe, to try to locate him. והודיע שלא ינוע חדר האלוקים ששם יעבדו, כמו שייעד באומרו, תעבדון את האלוקים על ההר הזה. So basically, Tziporah saw Moshe in the desert, and Moshe told her, look, I'm not going to really stay here. We're going to continue to travel, and we're going to rest, and we're going to encamp next to Har Sinai when we will receive the Torah, which means it's not the right time to come right now because we are still traveling. So if you want to come when we can rest a bit, that's really at the bottom of Mount Sinai. לפיכך אחר יתרו לבוא עד היות משה ועמו שם, which means, Sforno says, this is why Yitro didn't join Moshe immediately after Exodus, because he already sent Tziporah just to test the water, just to see if that's the right time to come and to visit. And Moshe told, I guess, his wife, Tziporah, dear, it's just not the right time. We are traveling, I'm taking with me 3 million people, I don't think I need my family right now, which we can criticize or appreciate. So don't come now, come a little later when we encamp in front of Mount Sinai. Tziporah went back to her father, and after Yitro, I guess, made the calculations of what is the time that Moshe and his nation will settle in front of Mount Sinai, he says, okay, that's the time to come back. Now, this is a very original interpretation, but you can see from the Mechilta, the Ramban, and Sforno, they are all bothered with the same question. What exactly going on here with Moshe and Yitro and Tziporah? At least according to the Sforno, there was, I guess, some kind of a communication between Tziporah and Moshe before they officially arrived. But still, none of it, it's in the narrative. It's all interpretations of the word achar shiluchea, after she was sent. So the Mechilta and Ramban says, after she was sent by Moshe, according to the Sforno, after she was sent by her own father. The Ralbag, Rabbi Levi ben Gershom, says the following, אחר שילוחיה, after she was sent, רוצה לומר, it's come to teach you, אחר ששלחה אל ביתה בהיותו במלון, כי אז הוא צריכה למול את בנה ולהתעכב שם. So Ralbag gives another moment in time when he suggests that Moshe sent Tziporah back. We need to go back to Parashat Shmot. When Moshe was on his way to Egypt, they stopped in an inn, like a little hotel. And then there was a terrible incident. Moshe almost was killed by like a snake. Tziporah realized the reason, and she immediately circumcised their son. And Ralbag says that was the moment when they stayed in the hotel that Moshe told Tziporah, you know what, you should go back. Because I need to go to Egypt. That was the divine commandment. You don't really need to go with me, and not only that, you need to stay with our baby who just had a Brit now, so you need to stay here for a while until he is strong enough to travel. So therefore, go back to your father with the child, because I, says Moshe, לא יוכל משה להתעכב שם עד ירפא הנער. I can't stay here another 2 weeks until the child is fully cured and he can go and travel. I need to go to Egypt. The Ralbag here, in a way, is really describing a drama and tension, really a confrontation between two very important values. Family, your child, and Moshe's divine commandment that he needs to go now to Egypt to save his people. Moshe's child and his wife and the people. And Moshe, in a way, cannot reconcile it in a way that everyone will be happy. This is a choice that he needs to make. This is a case that you can't say, okay, I'll do A and I'll do B at the same time. You need to choose. And Moshe, in a way, choosing his nation and his people over his family. This discussion is really not trying to justify Moshe's decisions. It's just to bring them to the surface and allow us, the readers, the learners, to really to think deeply about this question. Moshe, in a way, was forced to choose. He chose his nation. Was that the right decision? Was not the right decision? Could he go to God and say, God, my child almost died also and he was circumcised and we need to wait. Can you give me 3 more days? Or can you please send an immediate cure for my child so we can go back to Egypt? Unlike the Mechilta, where the meeting, the moment when Tziporah was sent was in the desert. And really the reason was care for her, don't want to come with me to Egypt and to be enslaved, go home. Or what the Sforno suggested here, in a way the Ralbag is basically saying, I can't delay my mission. Moshe is mission motivated, and he basically says, look, my family can be taken care of, but I cannot be there for them, which is something to definitely think about. The Kli Yakar, now we are really going to around the 18th century. He says, ודאי לא בחינם פירש הכתוב שם אשתו ושמות בניו. He says, it's definitely not for nothing that the narrative describes Tziporah by name and his children's names. וזה כי אמר לו יתרו, צא בגין אשתך ציפורה, כי כציפור נודדת מן קינה, כן איש נודד במקומו. ובא להזכירו צער אשתו כל זמן היותה נודדת מביתה. So the Kli Yakar is bringing some emotions to the story, some difficult emotions. Moshe sent Tziporah home. The Kli Yakar does not exactly say why. It might be that Moshe just realized, I can't come with Tziporah. She's an unknown entity and the people will look at me in a different and funny way. Maybe he was embarrassed. Maybe he just didn't go along with her. Maybe because of all the reasons we mentioned before, because he felt that, she needs to go back and she does not need to suffer. Whatever the reason is, in a way, Moshe was so focused on what he did that he totally forgot her. And Yitro, in a way, is telling Moshe, with all the idealism and with all this sense of mission, you have a wife. And her name is Tziporah. Tziporah from the word a bird, tzipor. And she is like wandering from one nest to another. She's longing for your nest. She's longing for your house. She wants to be with you. She is suffering emotionally. She misses you. So do something and meet her and bring her back. And you know what? Ve'im lo begina, and maybe you really have no feelings towards her. כי אולי אין האדם מרגיש כל כך בצער אשתו. Maybe you are not sensitive enough to feel the suffering of your wife. So you know what? צא בגין בנך גרשום, על שם כי גר הייתי בארץ נוכריה. Come out and meet your family because of your son Gershom. Why did you call him Gershom? Because you felt as a foreigner in a foreign land. ובא להזכיר צער בנים שאינן מסובים על שולחן אביהם, כי גרים המה. He says, look at your son. He has no father. He has a father, and the father doesn't do anything fatherly. So they also feel like foreigners in their own homes. They need a father. ואמר לו, אתה ידעת את נפש הגר, כי גר היית גם אתה. And he says to Moshe, don't forget where you come from. Yes, now you are the big leader that leading the Jewish nation out of Egypt, the Am Israel, the people of Israel, and you're going to give them the Torah, and you're going to bring them to the land of Israel, and you're going to make all those miracles, but don't forget, just 2 years ago you were in Midian, you felt a foreigner in a foreign country. That's why you named your child like that. You know what does it feel to be a foreigner, to feel that you don't belong. So do it for your son. And if you're not going to do it for Gershom, צא בגין בנך Eliezer. So you should go and meet the family because of your other son Eliezer, שנקרא על שם כי אלוקי אבי בעזרי, ושמו כשם רבו, ודומה כאילו אתה מקבל פני שכינה כשמו בקרבו. And Eliezer has the name of God. My God helped me. Says Yitro to Moshe, you named your child with the name of God in it. So, if your son comes, in a way, God himself, so to speak, comes with him. על כן הזכיר שמותם. And this is the reason why Yitro mentioned the names of Tziporah and the 2 children. Now, besides the fact that the Kli Yakar explains why do I need to mention the names which I already know from Parashat Shmot, I think the Kli Yakar describes to us an amazing drama. And not exactly flattering to Moshe. Again, it's not a judgment call, it's some kind of, like you need to wonder. Or perhaps that's what the Torah exactly wants to send us to this message, to convey this message that even Moshe, who definitely needed to be on a totally different level as a prophet and as a leader, but he didn't find time for family. And it's not about to blame him or not, but the Torah wants to bring us this point to think about. Can we do it in a different way? Did Moshe do the right thing? In a way, according to the Kli Yakar, Yitro had almost to beg Moshe to step out of his leadership bubble or leadership realm into a family man, which we are not even sure that Moshe did it or not. Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, 19th century Germany, I think felt the issue, and immediately he suggests that מסתבר, it's probable, כי בלחץ תפקידיו, because of the pressure of his mission and his role as a leader, וכדי שיוכל להקדיש את עצמו כולו למילוי משימת שליחותו, and in order to be able to dedicate his all, meaning his entire being for his mission. חזר משה ושילח את אשתו ובניו הביתה אל חותנו. Moshe understood he is going to be immersed in his mission, so he sent his children and his wife back home. אבל שילוחים אלה לא נתפרשו שלא כהלכה, והיחסים ביניהם לא נפגמו. Says Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, but wait, don't even think for a second that there was something between Moshe and Tziporah that he didn't like her, or he was embarrassed by her. No. He did it because he didn't want to hurt her. He didn't want her to come home and he's never there. He didn't want the children to be disappointed. So he decided he's going to, in a way, detach himself, which was his decision. יתרו נשאר חותן משה, ציפורה נשארה אשת משה. So Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch says, and you also have a hint to my interpretation, says Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, look at the verse. The verse says, ויקח יתרו, you could stop there, but it says חותן משה. Yitro kept this honor to be Moshe's father-in-law, and Tziporah continued to be Moshe's wife, even though she didn't see him for already almost 2 years. Which means the separation was not out of, God forbid, anything bad or any tension or couple issues. Just Moshe felt that in order to be fully dedicated, he can't have a family right now. Which, by the way, as a side note, we know that that was an anomaly, because every other leader was married with family, and not only that, they need to be married. Kohen Gadol, the high priest, has a wife, and on Yom Kippur, Erev Yom Kippur, we create another woman, a wife, so to speak, on call, that if his first wife dies, he will have another wife, because when he atones first and foremost for himself, for his wife, for his children, and then for the tribe of the Kohanim, the priests, and Am Yisrael. The idea is that we can do both, but perhaps Moshe felt that his mission is too large, is too big. He can't be distracted by anything else. But Rab Shimshon Raphael Hirsch should just focus and emphasize and re-emphasize the fact that it was not because there was any tension between them. It was just Moshe's decision in order to be fully committed and immersed in his mission. The Malbim says that Hagam sheshalach אותה ונפרד ממנה לא חש לזה. So the Malbim continues, or also goes along the same lines of Rab Shimshon Raphael Hirsch. He says he separated himself from Tziporah not because ba'avur shema'as ba, not because God forbid Moshe didn't like Tziporah. כי עדיין הייתה אשת משה גם אחר שילוחיה. Because she remained to be his wife even after he sent her. כי לא נפרד ממנה רק לפי שעה עד יפקוד השם עמו. The Malbim gives a little bit of a different take, and he says, Moshe told Tziporah, look, the beginning of my job is going to be very stressful. It's better for you to go home. I will not have time for you. And after Hashem will save the people, I will have more time. Please come back. So the Malbim, in a way, I think, make it a bit softer. There is a way back, but for now, I can't have a family, says Moshe. The Netziv gives it a bit of a halachic angle, but then he's trying to explain it. And he says, אחר שילוחיה, after ציפורה was sent, באשר לפני מתן תורה, היה הדת שמשעה שהאיש משלח את אשתו ממנו נפרדים זה מזה, ומותרת להינשא לאחר, כמו שכתב הרמב"ם בהלכות מלכים, which means, before the Torah was given, if a man will send his wife from his house, that's it. They are divorced. There is no bill of divorce because the Torah was not given yet. So in a way, when Moshe told Tziporah, you can go home, she was basically a free woman. She could marry someone else and it will be no problems. משום כך יודיע כתוב שלא כן הייתה ציפורה. And this is why the narrative tells us that Tzipora was not like that. שהיא הייתה אשת משה אחר שילוחיה. It's come to tell us a praise, a tremendous praise about Tzipora. Tzipora knew that her husband sent her just because of all the reasons that we mentioned before. Maybe because he didn't want her to suffer in Egypt. Maybe because he couldn't delay his mission. Maybe he was immersed in his mission. Tzipora was willing to take it upon herself. A real Eshet Chayil to some extent. She understood that Moshe had to choose his nation over the family. And she understood that she is free and she can marry whoever she wants. Moshe is not, God forbid, holding her back. But she decided to wait for Moshe. לא הסיחה דעתה ממנו אף על גב ששלחה. Even though he sent her, she never lost sight from the real goal, to be Moshe's wife and to have the family with him. She didn't want another husband. She was willing to wait. And you can imagine, especially ancient times, raising 2 kids by herself, being with her father, no husband, not knowing even when she will go back to her husband, but she knew she will go back. It reminds us of Hagar, to some extent. The Torah in Bereshit says, "Vayosef Avraham vayikach isha shma Keturah," that after Sarah's death, Avram took another wife, her name was Keturah, and who was Keturah? So Rashi says, Zu Hagar, that was Hagar, the woman that Avraham married with Sarah's advice, because they didn't have children. ונקראת כתורה על שנעים מעשיה כקטורת, that she is called כתורה because her deeds were lovely, or שקשרה פתחה שלא נזדווגה לאדם מיום שפרשה מאברהם. Hagar, even though she was not sent, she was expelled by Abraham, because Sarah demanded it and God agreed, she did not have any bad feelings, no animosity towards Abraham. She understood, or maybe she accepted, that there is a difficult reality, there is a challenging reality in Abraham's house, and Sarah demanded that she will be expelled, and maybe she was angry, but she understood who was Abraham. And therefore she said, I'm going to wait. Again, ancient times, a woman with a son wandering around and still very committed and not being with any other man, waiting for Abraham to come along. Tziporah, in a way, according to this explanation, acts in a very, very similar way. So, when you look now at Tziporah, we can see her in so many different ways. We can see her as a very submissive wife that was sent and then was brought back by her father, and that's it. We can see that she can understand Moshe's mission, and she is willing to sacrifice her own married life for Moshe to be able to be the leader. And the third option is to look at Tziporah, that she was willing to sacrifice so much for Moshe to be the leader that he needs to be, but she never gave hope on being together with him, even though it will not be exactly what she imagined probably, but she was willing to allow him to be the leader that he needed to be based on what God expected him to do, and just to, in a way, sit or to stand on the sidelines and to allow him to be what he needs to be. In modern times, these messages are not exactly so easy to digest, but at least it reveals a little bit about Tziporah. Because we are going to meet her again at the end of Parashat Be'alotcha, which is in the book of Numbers, in Sefer Bamidbar. And there, Miriam and Aaron are talking about Moshe because of his wife. So what exactly is the connection between what we said today and Parashat Be'alotcha? Now we have some homework to do. Thank you very much.